Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. My name is Garhen. This evening, we have our 1 hour help and advice session. Uh, did a great production video today on what is wrong with our children, and that'll be released tomorrow, and really actually looking forward to that. I'm still a little revved up about it. I get really passionate about that. And as I said, if there's not a lot of questions or advice needed this evening, we're going to have a different sort of talk for a little while. Interesting day today. Weather is shifting again back to rain. We certainly do not have spring yet, and boy, am I waiting for it. Oh, Kelly says hi. Hi, honey. My wife, she's so far away from me right now. Aren't you? So, and maybe it's time that we had one of these little more fiery conversations about the state of being that we're in, and I'm not going to, I'm going to stay objective as I possibly can. But let's face it, the things we say we want, the things we say we're doing, and the reasons why we're doing them, most of the times, none of that stuff lines up. Most of the time, none of it makes any sense. We are a symptom-fighting species, or a species of symptom fighters. No matter which way you look at it, we spend all our time fighting symptoms. Our body doesn't feel good. The temple doesn't feel right. We don't bother to look at our diet. We don't bother to understand that we've been feeding our body junk. Instead, we go out and we find a pill or something else to relieve a symptom. This is pervasive in every level of government, every institution, every organization, every group, every membership. We are reactive by nature, and that nature is the egoic nature. And that original nature was simply to protect us in the natural environment. Before we took over this place, there was an equal chance when you were running around day to day that some other animal may not like your presence or decide that you could be edible. So you needed to be able to react, and you need to be able to react really quickly. But we don't need those unconscious reactions anymore, yet boy, do we still fall victim to them all the time. Where do we as individuals see ourselves in 20, 30 years? Where do we see our species in 50 years? Where do we see our children and our grandchildren in that 50-year period? What do we envision the state of our earth and our societies are going to be like if we continue on the path we're continuing on? We are not free. We live in an almost perpetual state of fear, and because of that, we are always looking outside of ourselves. Someone, please just take over, make me feel safe. And we call that government. Haven't we learned yet that government does not serve the people as it was once invented to do? Have you not noticed that indeed it is the people that serve the will of the government now? Doesn't anybody see that the idea of democracy and freedom is a pipe dream that we were sold a long time ago that hasn't existed in a long time either? As long as we are afraid, as long as we refuse to accept our place in the totality of the whole of the human race, And when I say our place, there is no place lesser and no place greater. You know, when you look at the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna makes it very clear as he delineates the three stratum of society. He points out that the people who keep everything running, the ones you can't do without. I mean, you can do without a lawyer, and you can do without an accountant, and you can do without a high-priced executive in a building somewhere. But you're not going to be able to do without the guy who picks up your garbage or the woman who picks up your garbage. You're not going to last very long without the maintenance worker who's willing to make sure that you're getting fresh water. Or how about the person standing behind the till who hands you your coffee in the morning you so desperately need? In our society, we would pay those people less and we would look upon them as less and we would call them blue-collar workers. And yet those people are indispensable to the day-to-day functioning of our society. You know, when I had my first awakening experience, I literally woke up the next morning and looked around me and realized that most of what I thought was reality was actually 180 degrees the opposite direction. I figured either I had gone nuts or the entirety of the human civilization was insane. And as it turned out, I was actually becoming sane, as anyone who's waking up does. And you are waking up sane in an insane world that feels it's sane. We live in societies today that advertise debt load, that try to sell you things in order to make you feel better about yourself, at the same time that our governments are telling people that, well, you should be careful about the level of debt you're carrying. We send out two messages all the time. The one message says, you cannot be happy without this. And the other message says, if you do this, there's going to be trouble. What do you think happens? People are so confused, so lost in this digital age, so over-processed. You know, we have more information available at our fingertips than ever before, yet more ignorance. I hate to say this, but my stepkid can't change a tire on a bike. And the fact that there's 12,000 videos on YouTube on how to do it makes no difference. This is where we've come to. And it's not a judgment. There's no blame. This is what we've become. 40,000 children die of starvation every day. Hundreds of millions of others go without proper nutrition every day as we stuff our faces and go on diet plans. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm not guilty. Guilty as charged. I can own up to it. Where is the gratitude in a society that whines and cries over its inability to afford luxury items when there are so many people in the world who can't even have their basic needs met? Why? Why do we keep choosing that? Do we just not care? Is that it? Does no one give a damn? If you don't know them, fuck them. That's sort of the mentality, isn't it? You know, I got to tell you, and quite, you can send all the flack my way you want. Doesn't bother me. Let's just be crystal clear about that. But I watch as the whole nation gets behind the death of 15 hockey students. And, you know, it is a terrible thing. Granted. If you're those kids' parents, you're having a yucky time right now. I get that. And I don't want to take away from that. But we raised $8 million in 4 days for the 15 survivors and the 15 who died. While on the back corner of the news the same day, 27 children die going over a cliff in India, and it warrants 2 lines at the back of a page. Again, 40,000 children starved to death yesterday. 40,000. And yet, we get this carried away over 15. And we can't say we're not aware of the rest of them, because the statistics are there, the commercials are there, the evidence is there. What is it in us that makes us turn a blind eye to that, at the same time that we can whine and cry and feel compassion and sorrow for a few who are relatively nearby? This is a question that you have to answer for yourself. I will not give you the answer to this. I refuse. I know what the answer is. I asked the question. And any question that's asked, I get the answer to. That's the beauty of it. I love that process. We as a species, as individuals, must empower ourselves again. We must take on the roles that we need to take on within our own civilization if we are to make any change at all. We cannot rely on someone else to do the job. You are here as a magnificent, powerful spiritual being to have a human experience, and you have a gift, a one-of-a-kind gift that this world needs now more than ever, right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not in 20 years, not whenever you think you've got your act together, but right now. And I know that you can do it. You just have to throw out that nasty little 4-letter word, fear. And decide that you are no longer going to be a person whose thoughts, words, and deeds do not line up. That you are going to start to be truthful and honest and real with yourself. Choosing your thoughts, choosing your words, and choosing your actions. And when you line all those things up, the entire universe gets behind to shove you in the direction you wish to go. But not until all of that lines up. And that's always been the problem with the things we think we desire, okay? And that's why I really say give up on desire. You don't do it. Don't have things you perceive you want. Let go of your wants. You don't even really know what you want most of the time anyways. None of us do. We keep changing our damn minds, and as soon as we get it, we don't really want it anymore. And again, it's because we weren't looking for the things. We were looking for the feeling. And I'm telling you right now, the feeling is tick-tock. Tick-tock. Seconds to go on humanity's clock. And no, we're not going to get destroyed. No, it isn't doomsday. No, it isn't the end of the world. But you know what it will be? It will be the end of the way of life as we know it. And it will usher in a period of immense suffering for the whole of humanity. And I, for one, would prefer to make a higher choice. I choose to turn my vision and my attention towards what we can be, what we are underneath the lies that we've been sold, what we are under the false limiting concepts of the small self that we would suppose we are. Who's with me? Do we really believe that we are meaningless beings, an accident of creation, a fluke of evolution, living finite, miserable little existences, only to disappear back into the nothingness which we came? And really, if that were the case, would it still be worth anything down here? Because we don't act like it is. I mean, despite the fact that in this relative world, in this relative universe, in this dualistic relative terms that we have to talk about in our existence here as shards of creation, I have a limited time frame. My clock started ticking the day I was born, and I don't know the day it's going to stop ticking. You know, I asked one of the group members a question a couple of days ago. I said, if you were going to die in 48 hours and you knew for sure, there was no two ways about it, in 48 hours you're going to be dead, what are you going to do with the 48 hours of your life? The rub here is that you don't know whether you're going to be alive another 48 hours or not. I don't know whether I will be or not. What am I going to do with the time I have right now? Because this moment, this time right now is all you have. When we stop, when we wait for some far off projected future to come around, where we're going to be happy, where we're going to be fulfilled, where we're finally going to feel okay, we will never experience it. And even if parts of that future do come to us, they will not bring that experience. The boundless being that you are wishes to express itself in all its glory through the egoic entity that you would call you. And it's only a part of you. Every day you push off your own freedom. Every day you choose to not speak when you know you should speak. Every day where you decide to enact that day the same as every other day and not take the new creative steps forward, you run the risk of waking up one day and realizing you ran out of time. And the one thing you never want to have when you're lying there on your deathbed, if you get that privilege, are regrets about what you didn't do. We as a species need each other more than ever right now. We need the love and compassion that we are all capable of, that we are at our core being. And we need that to spread beyond the words, beyond the video screen, beyond the newspapers, beyond the written text. And we need to stand up. We need to stand up as a species. We need to stand up against the powers that be and saying, no more will we live in a world of your creation. No longer will we accept the economic nightmare that we are all slaves to, so that a precious few may benefit. I've talked about this before, and I am a spiritual warrior, which means I am ready to go to war in a spiritual manner. And when I say I'm ready to go to war, what I mean is I have armed myself with the necessary tools, and I have armed myself with the will and the desire to do the most important battle of all that you will ever face in all of your days, and that is the battle you must do within yourself. The battle to cut the ties of the old ways, to cut the programming, to slice through and blow your way through all the things that you've been told are true and all the things you believed are true, and start choosing for yourself. Start defining you for you, not according to someone else's desires, not according to society's opinions. Society is insane. Absolutely bonkers. As a matter of fact, one of my greatest, the greatest accolades I get are when people tell me I'm nuts. I love hearing that from sleeping members of our society. There's nothing that makes me feel more warm and cozy inside than having some unconscious, insane member of our species tell me what a nutcase I am. I feel so blessed. I really do. Every day, our technology takes another leap beyond our psychology. Every day, our ability to do harm grows incrementally as our ability to understand what we've created seems to diminish. A really interesting fact, there has not been one harmful thing that humanity has ever developed that they didn't go ahead and use. We haven't made one product that we knew does extreme harm to other humans and decided, nope, we're not going to use that. We got to go ahead and use it anyways. Does that sound like sanity? Is it sanity that 40,000 children do die every day, where we throw enough food away in North America alone to feed all those children for months and months on end, and we throw that food away every day? We burn grain. We let it rot. Why? Because you wouldn't want to give it away. God forbid someone would benefit. In Canada here, it's millions of liters of milk. There's a milk monopoly, a dairy monopoly in this country. And rather than allow millions of liters of milk to be sold at cut costs or give it away, they threw it all away. Out of all the species that I've encountered in the universe, this is the only one that fouls its nest. The only one that's working wholesale to destroy the only place it can live. Now here's the real kicker. Believe it or not, it's all right. We can go this route if we want. You see, we have the choice. We always have, and we always will, until the last one of us breathes their last dying breath. Humanity will have a choice to grow up, to wake up, to get up, and choose a different path for itself. To choose to understand that the needs of the many mean absolutely nothing as long as one of us is starving to death somewhere. You know, it amazes me the amount of money we spend on space travel, as if we're in a hurry to get off of this planet. Do we want to spread ourselves? Because our behavior here is more virus-like. And I would hate to think what would happen if we got off this planet too soon, before we are mature enough. And I guarantee you, we are nowhere near mature enough yet. We're like that nasty little kid in the playground who had really mean parents. And everything we get our hands on, we want to see what sort of damage it'll do to someone else. And we do that with money, with finances, with companies, with vehicles, with weapons. It doesn't matter what it is, we'll find a way to use it to harm someone. We are a petty, poor excuse for a conscious species in our current condition. Again, it's not a judgment. It's an objective viewpoint. Now, here's the beauty of this, okay? When we dial our vision in, when we come out of the big picture, and we get deeper and deeper and deeper, we see these amazing examples of just the opposite of that. These little pockets of brilliant light. And that light can never, ever be extinguished. But we can choose to heal and end the suffering for every member of our species, and we can choose it together, and we can choose it now, and we don't have to wait, and it doesn't have to be some far off day or some far off year or millennium. We can do it today. We can do it right now, today. We're not going to. My days of taking over planets are pretty much over. I'm really not interested in that anymore. But I'm all for an enlightened monarchy. A truly enlightened monarchy. Because our government system, you know, much like our strata system, in our little 10-unit strata, my wife and I had a discussion with the gentleman who's come to quote digging up the ground and repairing one of the pipes that's causing our foundation leak. And in that discussion, I pointed out how that everyone here chooses to be reactive instead of proactive. And what they're doing is trying to cover their own pocketbooks until they can get out, not realizing that according to strata law, all the things we've talked about in our strata meetings, not done and left undone, if they were to cause additional expenses, the original homeowner can be held responsible still, years after the fact. So we're going at the end of the month to try and sit down with our strata and take these people and you know, twist them around and face them in the right direction. And true democracy would be great if it was possible, but it's not. As long as you have people who have self-interest and no interest towards the whole, you will never have true democracy. The idea of democracy is based on a society where every member of that society realizes their intrinsic worth and the intrinsic worth of every other member of the society. And we are far from that point. How do we get there? We drop this small little vision of ourselves. We take back our personal power and we unite this world. Every spiritual thinking member of our species, every person who's ever thought that there's more than just them, every person of love and compassion who wishes to see less and less and less suffering instead of more and more and more. It is us who can do this. We need to recruit every major spiritual leader, every one of them who's on YouTube, every one of them who talks on Facebook, all united in the same goal, to wake our species up, to end the circle of pain we keep putting ourselves through, to take that next step that the entirety of creation is waiting with bated breath for us to take. We are going to take it one day. No two ways about it. The only choice is how much suffering we are going to allow, and we are allowing it, between now and that day. Between now and that leap forward as a species. As it's been a quiet evening, we're going to end it here. Much love and namaste to you all. New video released tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. And we'll be doing a live on Friday as well via Facebook. Again, have a wonderful evening. Hope you've enjoyed the little discussion. And again, I do apologize if I can become a little over impassioned about it sometimes. Again, take care. Love to you all.